Welcome to Beyond Motion Gold Standard Vlog.
Yes.
I'm super pumped because the difference between this and a podcast is I wanted to give my itinerary,
Okay.
and then I wanted to bring guests on like Kelly, who we can talk specifics about, and this is about nutrition.
Okay.
Okay,
How
so
much time do we have?
I know we're trying to make it 20 to 30 minutes. So if we
Right.
go on, I apologize. First, let me introduce my wonderful guest. This is Miss Kelly Seyler.
Thank you.
Seyler. Seyler.
Got it.
Okay. What would you say your title would be?
I have a few titles. I have a little bit of this. So I am a licensed registered nurse. I also have a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics.
Okay.
So, and I am almost going to be a nurse practitioner.
When's that over?
When is that over? I was just talking about that.
You're going to school, not me.
I know. Well, it's a longer conversation, but it depends on what specialty track I end up going with. And you know me,
Doctor,
I kind
maybe?
of want to go and do all of it. So hey, we'll see. But about a year of clinical hours, depending on where I'm going to practice.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
Very
Cool. Just so you know, in the past,
Okay.
like we can dot I's and cross T's with nutrition, like my staff and I.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to when you really want to get into the deep aspect of
Right.
nutrition, I thought I knew something of nutrition, but this girl taught me very quickly I do not know anything about nutrition. So that's why she's our first and foremost guest, because we're talking about this is all science-based, and this is what we
Right.
want to talk about.
Right.
So let's give itinerary first. First, I wanted to go over the different aspects of nutrition and what the different, I would say, cool things are to do now,
Right. Okay.
whether it be
Yeah.
vegan, vegetarian, keto,
Gotcha.
carnivore, sapien. I know, we can go on
The
for hours.
possibilities are endless,
So,
right?
and it's sort of generated
Yeah.
from the Netflix movie Game Changers a little bit, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
everyone's confused.
I know. Yeah. Exactly.
We're here to clarify some stuff.
We're gonna try.
These are all just our opinions as well. These are
Yes.
not medical, medical.
We're not diagnosing, we're not
Diagnosing,
treating
exactly.
anybody, but we're going to try to give some clear information.
Perfect.
Right? And then you need to take it and,
Yeah.
do with it what you want.
Yeah,
But
I like
we have some opinions and ideas, right?
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Science-based, of
So,
course.
Science-based.
Science-based. Always
Science-based.
science-based.
All right, I think
yeah.
20 minutes is over already. So
All right,
anyways,
let's go.
so we're going to start up. So when we talk keto, talk to me about it.
So I think for keto, like a ketogenic diet, meaning what? We're gonna like go. So
Yeah.
I think for like the keto diet, the main thing for me is like people tend to get that a little bit confused because they're like, oh, I can just eat as much fat as I want. That's what a keto diet is. Well, okay, yes. Are you trying to, decrease the amount of sugar and carbohydrates you take in and elevate your, fat intake? Yes. But is there too much of, protein as a component as well there, right?
Right.
Well, the main thing is if you get too much protein, you can convert protein to glucose. So when people do the keto diet, I see two mistakes. One is like they're eating a ton of protein. I mean, like way more than a gram per pound of body weight, right? Two, they're sitting there going, well, I can eat as much fat as I want. Well, if you're eating lots of protein, converting some of that to glucose, plus eating a ton of fat, are you in ketosis?
No.
No. And then they're going, well, why am I not like losing weight, or why is this not working for me?
Interesting.
So there's a big, and again, you really can only be taking in about 10% of your total calories from protein when you to do a true ketogenic diet.
Okay.
Right. So you should be testing. Like if you're saying you're doing keto, you need to be
blood sugar testing?
No,
or?
well, you should be testing your urine for ketones. You can buy ketone strips.
Okay.
You should be testing. Like because if you're not in ketosis, you're probably going to just get bigger because you're eating way too much fat.
Okay.
Right?
So contrastly then, let's talk about vegan.
Ooh, let's talk about it.
Okay,
I mean, I do think for the population, that athletic population, it is definitely harder, right, to be successful maybe as an athlete to get like high quality calories because I'm sure you see that, right? Where people.
When I've tried it, I just can't. Not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but I can't sustain.
Sure.
So
and
I'm hungry all the time.
You're hungry all the time. I mean, to give you an example, Oreos, I think, are technically vegan.
Sure.
The last time I checked.
Yeah.
So what the biggest mistake I see people think it's like gluten-free. Well, I'm gluten-free. Okay, but you can still eat very low nutritional quality foods if you're vegan or if you're gluten-free or whatever. So at the end of the day, you have to look at what are these foods that you're actually taking in. If you're buying like vegan burgers out of the freezer section,
Sure.
I don't know how many ingredients are on
What's
your...
the nutrient value
Right.
and everything else, right?
And what can your body actually do with that? If you can't pronounce the ingredients,
Right.
can your body actually take those
Sustain it.
and to actually utilize it,
Metabolize
package
it.
it up, and use it for what you
Yeah.
want to do, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So
But if
it's
you
not that you can't be successful, but I do think that it requires a fairly high, like, knowledge level, maybe.
And preparation level.
Yeah, and you have to be prepared,
Right.
you know, and you have to be actually, you know, purchasing, like, probably real Whole Foods, not that you're just buying at Whole Foods by getting out of the
not
freezer
buying it
section.
to the middle section
right.
of with the
Not
cardboards
that
and
anything's wrong
everything.
with Whole Foods, don't, you know.
No, I like Whole Foods.
I
Whole
do
Foods is
too.
good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so those, you know, that, and now we have like Sapien coming out, and or synonymous with carnivore. Sapien,
Okay.
carnivore.
Yeah, so Sapien is like a fairly new,
Very new.
I would say this is the new movement,
It
right?
is. They're just as angry as the vegans are, though.
They are. And
Why are they so angry?
why are they so angry?
I don't know.
We should message them and be like, why are
they're
you so angry?
Yes.
So I would just say, from my perspective, I always caution people, okay, if there's like a word like tribe, or, you know, like
Yeah.
if they're calling their group something, that may be a red flag. That
Sure.
the extremeness or the, you know, whatever. It just, you have to go into it keeping an open mind. If they're making a documentary, if they're selling a product, when you get to the bottom of the screen,
Interesting.
just, you know, do a little more research,
Sure.
get the other side of the story, because sometimes those people are so narrow-minded that they're not realizing probably the biggest thing about nutrition is it's really individualized. What works for me may not work for you.
True.
And so for the Sapien, though, I think basically they're saying beef is okay. It has to be grass-fed. They
Sure.
want you to buy it from their farm, and they will tell you that it's grass-fed and where it came from, but
And you eat 3 steaks for breakfast, 3 steaks for dinner.
yeah, I
and
mean,
you're good
it's
to go.
kind of similar to paleo, I think, except they're you know, promoting beef and, you know, like more of saturated fat. They're saying that that's not really the problem.
So let's lead into Mediterranean then.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I
So
feel like that's
Mediterranean
the-
is probably the most like popular, you know, and it just originated from the fact that people think that, you know, that section of the world, right, the way that they eat, their dietary habits that go way back, that's how they, you know, they tend to be healthier than Americans. And so it's high quality fats, right? It is a little bit of protein. It's lots of, you know, fresh fruits and vegetables. Like, it's, I would say it's probably, you know, more of just a well-rounded, holistic, you know, kind of program. You're eliminating processed foods. Right?
So you go over all those aspects.
Right. And
What's best for you?
for me personally?
I mean,
yeah, I think if I had to tell someone, like if I was going to
because
meet...
there's people watching right now, they're
right.
still confused, and it's like,
I
okay,
know. Yeah,
what do I
because-
need to do? Sorry.
So the problem is this, I think, one, like we don't necessarily know for sure. And so nobody likes to say in medicine, like, I don't know.
Sure.
Because it sounds like incompetent, but it's not. We're learning. I think that we're still really pushing that scientific envelope a little bit with nutrition. And I would say you need to probably get a set of labs, like get some blood work done, see where your cholesterol is, you know, look at your lipids, look at the different components of that. Look at some of these inflammatory markers now we can test for, right? Like so, and you know, we want to look and see where you personally are. What's your baseline? Is your blood sugar high? Okay, well that would be a red flag to me then that the way you're eating is not right for your body.
So what's high?
Well,
99, 98, 97, or 100 plus?
Well, I mean, technically on a lab value, a 99
Right.
is the upper end of normal.
Which I'm sitting at all the time.
Oh, I'm
97,
sitting
98,
right
yeah.
above there all the time. So, I mean, I think genetics do play a little bit of a role, you know,
Okay.
so the key would be in that case, same with cholesterol. You need to know like your baseline and see where you're sort of, are you trending along the same line over the course of 6 months to a year?
Okay.
Where I don't know too many, you know, physicians now where if you had a borderline blood sugar or cholesterol level, they're not going to treat you off that one test. They're going to sort of look at you over 6 months and see what you're doing. If you're going up, then probably
Right.
need to, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, for instance, if I'm trying to figure out what's best for me,
Right.
if I got baseline blood tests, what would be incorporated within a baseline blood testing?
Well, I mean, you'll want to do a lipid panel. So that's going to look at your total cholesterol, your LDL, your HDL, which is the good cholesterol, your triglycerides.
Sure.
And then some tests now, they'll test for the VLDL, which is like the very low. And that one, yeah, the only problem with that is it's hard to measure. Like, so it's not as easily detectable and like measured for just like a number. But you're right, that is the one that we do think now is probably the most dangerous.
Okay.
And it could be the one that medication is the least likely to modify.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And so that's what they're kind of, I mean, like the medication and will be, it will be necessary because lifestyle will not be able to modify it.
Because it'll be that high.
Well, or it's genetics. You know, I mean, it's really that there is such a huge genetic component now to cholesterol that we're finding that you could be the healthiest, most, you know, you could do everything right.
Sure.
And you may still have that higher level just because that's who you are, you know. Thank your parents for that.
Yeah,
you know?
right?
Yeah.
So that leads us to the cholesterol conundrum a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So
I
this is
know.
a whole nother thing, and we don't want to kill this as far as going an hour on it.
No,
So for me, and I'll just share something from my cholesterol, was like 259.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Then I tried to get a better one, like 279. Yeah, right?
Right.
So
funny how that works.
and I was like,
Right.
okay. And then I tried a statin,
Okay.
and you know, I played football, basketball, everything else, and like you know, statin made my knees. I feel like I was an arthritic mess.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'd rather
Not do
have something
it.
happen
Right.
than not be able to walk.
Right.
So stopped the statin. 2 days later, 3 days later, it gets out of my system. I feel fine. I'm like, all right, I got to see if I can adjust this with nutrition.
Sure.
And then the more you listen to things and listen, like I'm a big podcast guy, I'm a big reader, and the more you read, the more you think like statins are not the way to go. The VLDL, like you talked about, is the one that's the important one.
Right.
And is there a perfect storm to look for? So for instance, Johnny G sees his or her cholesterol at 259. Oh crap, I gotta start statins. Or
well, they're not even so much treating you off of that big number. They're not treating you off the total cholesterol. They're treating you off of
the LDL.
The LDL, the HDL, and the triglycerides.
Okay.
So it's like a perfect storm, like the trifecta.
What if LDL is only high?
So if LDL is only high, they would probably let you go a little bit longer, kind of make some dietary, you know, adjustments. Typically the person, like the, you know, the stereotypical person that you would see they would have elevated blood sugar, but they're not a type 2 diabetic.
Right.
Maybe their liver enzymes would be a little bit elevated, but nothing crazy, just showing like obviously the liver is having a little bit of sluggishness, you know, not quite processing, because cholesterol is, you know, packaged up and processed in the liver.
Yes.
So if your liver is not working well or it's a little sluggish.
Is that why Billy Rubin's always high?
Yes.
Really? God, we're getting too specific. Sorry.
I know. Sorry. We're gonna. This
Wibbs
is our
in the background.
I know,
going,
right?
Yes,
like no, stop. Yeah, exactly.
He went personal on me. So, you'll see indicators.
You'll see indicators, and I would say, you know, you don't have to jump right into like treatment, you know, but you do have to understand then what those numbers mean. And if you don't quite get the clarification from your physician what you need to do, then maybe you need to work with like a dietitian or somebody, you know, who can help you understand. Okay, these foods are impacting me here. You know, exercise is helping me here. You know, so how can I sort of maximize my levels and optimize them? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But at the end of the day, genetics, right? I mean, hey, we can't change that.
Right.
So.
We can't, and I eat very well, and my cholesterol's high. So it. We have Wibbs in the background doing a lot of motions that he's trying to get us to mimic. So we're supposed to get closer together.
Yes,
so
we do. Okay.
So for the first vlog, we can have issues like this and figure them out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I think like if I had to say for people, like if you're gonna take your if you want to take home point, I would say that everyone is very individual, and that's why we don't tell people how to eat, because as like a healthcare practitioner, like I don't have time. I mean, I do as a dietitian, but not like now in the other role that I've been doing, I don't have time to do that one-on-one like counseling and time that it takes to actually give someone
big time commitment.
Great recommendations. Yeah. So if I sell you like a blanketed approach, I would say here's my like top 10, my top tips. Like you need to eat whole, clean, like whole, real food. Like did it walk on the ground, grow in the ground, fall from a tree, whatever, you know. You want to make sure that you're not eating things with a million ingredients that are able to stay on the shelf for a long period of time, right? You need to have some fat. Like you have to have fat. If you don't have fat, you are...
What's your best sources of fat?
Well, again, this will depend on, you know, like their individual baselines as well. Like, right. So, but I mean, you're definitely going to want to have like, you don't want to be consuming a lot of saturated or trans fat. I mean, I do believe that those are the heavy hitters in terms of heart disease. But you want to have like, you know, just like the, olive oil. Like, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, now they say coconut oil is bad. Now they say this. Right. It's like, but the key here is like, we're not eating so much of one ingredient that we're like over flooding our system with coconut oil. But if you want to cook with coconut oil, do it, you know.
The bottle of peanut butter I eat a night is probably too much.
Well, that's probably impacting your cholesterol a tad.
Oh, wow.
Don't know if you disclosed that you eat a jar of peanut butter.
I did not disclose that, no.
But, I mean, that's what I would, like, moderation, spread the wealth. That's what I say. Like, you don't want to, like, some people come in there like, oh my God, I can't, I'm like eating 5 things. I'm like, yeah, that's why. Like, that's why you have such bad cravings. That's why you're hungry all the time. Your body's sitting there going like, come on, give me something, a little variety here, right?
That's why she's so good. She states the obvious.
I mean, and that's like, you know, I would say my biggest thing is like people come in there like, well, I have all these food allergies and I can't eat all this. And it's like, okay, well, here, you need to take a step back and say, what foods am I eating that are really not working for me? Like if I'm having diarrhea or stomach cramps every time I eat eggs, then I would say, okay, lay off the eggs for a little bit. Maybe see if that will help sort of calm things down. But it's like for people that say I have a true food allergy, I mean, most people don't. They may have sensitivities, but not necessarily.
Garlic?
What about it? Is that your food sensitivity or
it's
what?
my wife's.
Oh yeah, well, she might have a real. I think she had allergies.
She treads lightly now. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that people don't. Like, you can get reflux. Like, you can have true effects. But if your body's not agreeing with it, like, or you're getting some type of physical symptom, that means that there's an inflammatory process happening, right, on the inside when you're consuming that. And if I had to say, our biggest thing is like, we have to just lower our own individual inflammation levels. And the weight will start to drop off, the blood sugar will come down, the cholesterol will come down. We're less inflamed from the inside. Yeah.
So top 3 things you do to get less inflamed?
I would get rid of a lot of the processed foods. I would get rid of artificial sweeteners if you can. Like if you're drinking things or, you know, diet drinks that have... My
Fruity Pebbles protein powder that just came in?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the label. But you know, and then also too, like, what are you buying? Like, I do think if you're still eating dairy tends to be pretty inflammatory for a lot of people, but then you probably need to spend the extra money if you can. You know, buy organic. If your chicken breast is this big, chances are that chicken had a little boost.
Our cameraman has giant chicken breasts that are quite large, and I try to explain those maybe not natural. So, but
right. And so what happens is, you know, you're consuming that, right? So those hormones that were pumped into the chicken, they, you know, if you eat enough of it, that's going to start, it'll start impacting your own hormone regulation. And before you know it, you're, you know, and that's really, I think, what's happening for a lot of people. They're eating foods that are not high quality, I guess, you know,
All right. That clarifies a lot. So, and I like how you keep it simple. So, but since we're on it, I know people will want to listen to this.
Okay, yeah.
You just said hormones. I know.
And we're going to have to, like, that's like a whole
nother
world. But I will have to say that 2020, the newest research, the new research that was just coming out now, they have acknowledged that hormone replacement for women, now in a specific kind, and we don't have time to go into that, but I will just say that they have, they did some studies now that have been at least enough to publish a paper showing that metabolic, like insulin resistance or high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes is actually reduced. The incidence is reduced by 13 to 20% in women who protect their hormones and who do replacement if they go through. Yes.
And men? No.
And men, they low testosterone is a true medical diagnosis now. That
low is characterized by what number, however? This is for all the guys out there getting hormone replacements on a daily basis.
What, 300? Is that
300? Yes. 300 and under, not 600.
Right, but it's age specific. It's age, like it's based on your age. So yes. I don't know off the top of my head
I'm sure if you're 600, though, you're pretty good at either age. 700 maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe not if you're like 18. But
18.
But we would never be replacing.
The scotch to your blood's going to be as thick as
right, and that's a whole other. I mean, that's a beast of a conversation. Yes, one which I would love to have. However,
so like I said, my other side, I love nutrition, and learning from Kelly is one of my favorite things. That's why I'm so thrilled she was able to be our first guest, and hopefully you learned something from this. And hopefully you can take something away from this, and understanding that I won't hit the table anymore, so it vibrates the camera, and understanding that one size doesn't fit all.
Yes. And you know what? And don't, like, if you don't know what is working for you, that's okay. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to figure it out, you know? And I think it's just like, you have to go into everything thinking about, like, if they're selling me something, or if they're afraid, if they're claiming that their way is the only way, chances are it's probably not, right?
Sure.
And that's like what I love about you and I, is like, I think that we're okay with saying like we don't know everything, and like we're open though to learning, and we want to learn more. And that's like why I think nutrition is such a cool like area like to have as a hobby, because you can essentially spend hours.
It keeps on evolving.
Right, and at the end of the day though, it's like, what have we kept saying over and over again? It's like, it's not one size fits all.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's really, really what the only thing we could say we know for sure.
So for all the carnivores, game changer followers, everything else, just because you saw it, and just because you saw some evidence that you think, supported that theory, doesn't mean it's best for you. So.
Right. And have you, do you have your blood work, your very basic blood work panel, your annual physical would take care of it, right?
Yeah.
And so can you look at that, and if your levels are good and you have no history of heart disease, you have no other indicators showing that your blood sugar is high, you're, anything, then what you're eating is probably working for you.
Okay. All right.
If you feel good.
I agree. I think that sums it up. So let's bring it together. Our cameraman says it's time to go. So it is time to go. So I want to thank Kelly. Thank you so much for being the first guest on the Beyond Motion
I could be here for
Golden Standard vlog. We can talk about
12 episodes later.
Yes. So if you see Kelly again, or if you want Kelly again, let me know.
Yes.
And maybe she has some time in her schedule. She's very busy. But we still appreciate you coming out today.
Well, thank you.
And
I appreciate you asking me.
Yes.
This is
exciting. I have to change some stuff in my nutrition plan, apparently. So I have to start getting more blood work. Anyways, over and out. This is Rick from Beyond Motion, and I hope you have a great day. And please enjoy each and every one, and make it blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.